Welcome to the SPS Digital Learning Hour, brought to you by the Digital Learning and Assessment Department. We're coming to you today from a conference room in Central Office, bringing you the latest news in Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom. We'll also inform you the latest updates, practices, and news as it pertains to our district. Whether you are new to using technology in the classroom or are a seasoned vet, we are here to help. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Mike Thomas, aka the Bearded Tech Ed Guy. You can find me out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Bearded Tech Ed, and coming soon to a computer near you, beardedtechedguy.com. As I'm continuing to build out the site, there is some basic stuff up there already. So a few quick announcements today. Welcome back from vacation. I hope yours was as restful as mine. I know we got to spend some time with a cohort of teachers learning how to use Unified Classroom effectively in the classroom and helping them prepare for next year and hopefully to teach you, our listeners, about how to use it in the classroom. So some announcements coming up. If you are a Flipgrid user or if you've never heard of Flipgrid before, I highly suggest you go check out blog.flipgrid.com. And out there are so many tools that you can use to help you with using Flipgrid, including becoming Flipgrid certified, which by the time you watch this video, I will have been certified myself, and so can you. Flipgrid is a really great tool. They have lots of great resources, especially for teachers on how to use it in the classroom. I highly encourage you to go check it out. This again will be in the show notes at blog.flipgrid.com. So for this week's interview of the week, I sat down with Katie Bevan, who's a math ILS over on Sumner Ave at Sumner Ave Elementary School. I really encourage you to listen really closely. We actually get into a lot about CS education, computer science education, and you'll hear about not only awesome opportunities, but you'll also hear about the great things that she is doing as a math ILS in her building. So check it out.
My name is Katie Bevan. I am the Math Instructional Leadership Specialist at Sumner Avenue School. I've been working in the city for 13 years now, crazy as that sounds. I actually spent 5 years teaching in a classroom. So I did some work in a third grade classroom at Homer Street School, some fabulous teachers over there. And then I came over to Sumner to kind of have like a new, kind of just a change of environment and try something new. And I taught for a year in third grade here. And then I was really lucky enough to be able to become an ILS. And I've been doing that kind of ever since.
Early years of teaching, what kind of technology did you use in the classroom?
To be honest, really almost nothing. I was a new teacher, just trying to feel my way through that process and kind of trying to become better at what I was doing. I was learning from the people around me. It wasn't a huge push at the time. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, really nothing. I probably didn't start using technology until, honestly, I became an ILS. And we started to add on some different things in the district, some different programs, some different initiatives, and really being involved in the rollout of We Learn has been a huge part of my kind of introduction to using technology. Being one of the presenters, the ILS has kind of presented that content. We kind of had to jump in and get comfortable so that we can not only kind of talk about it, but also be out there and doing it as well. So That's kind of where I kind of started it.
So primarily using technology when you became an ILS, so I'm going to guess a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of Word and Excel
Yeah. Honestly, being a math person, I'd like to say I used Excel a lot more. I've actually gotten a little bit more comfortable with it in the last couple of years. But a lot of it was just using even Brightspace, when Brightspace first came out, and trying to kind of use it as a course page and introducing students to that opportunity of being able to access things that way. And then also using it as a collaboration tool for teachers as well, because a lot of my work is with teachers. So using Brightspace was a huge piece to that, to kind of reach out to teachers and be able to work collaboratively in a platform. And then we would do the Padlet and Kahoots, all those things that we were trying to kind of put out as examples to teachers to use. I tried to do a lot of that as well, just so that if they had questions, I could try to answer them as best as possible. Not that I'm an expert, but just to try to be there for a resource.
Right. With being an ILS and wanting to be that example, this year is our final year of Brightspace. Have you stuck with using Brightspace because that's what everybody knows, or have you tried to venture out to Teams yet? Or
I've actually ventured out. I'm a huge user of Teams. Partially because I've gotten involved in projects they're using that as their main platform of communications. I kind of had to get involved in it, but I also like the fact that with all the Microsoft programs that we're using in the city, everything kind of fits together in Teams, and you can utilize OneNote, you can utilize just like our Outlook calendar and scheduling and things like that. Everything kind of fits into Teams. And so it's kind of like a one-stop place where you can access everything you need to kind of be involved when you need to be involved.
Since that was a learning process that you were kind of forced to undertake with Brightspace
Yes.
leaving, how have the teachers you work with responded to it? Do they like it better than Brightspace? Do they grudge it and wish we were still focused on Brightspace?
I don't think they necessarily begrudge it. It's just different. So it's learning something new. I think that the environment itself, the platform itself, just what you're looking at is just nicer and easier and friendlier. And I think they do as well. I think sometimes Brightspace was a little bit overwhelming just when teachers are kind of those kind of platforms, like you kind of use them in high school and college courses. And so not that they can't be used at elementary school, because they can, we know that. But I think there's people just kind of have like this stigmatism against them that we can't incorporate them. And so they almost don't want to. Once they get past that, they realize that like it's so much easier for the students to be able to log in and get access quickly to either like links or files or a way to submit projects or pieces of work. But I think that sometimes it was just overwhelming to them. And I feel like Teams isn't as overwhelming. I feel like it's a little bit more user-friendly. So in our PLCs especially, I feel like they're more apt to log into that and utilize it the way that we're supposed to be than they were with Brightspace.
It's great because PLCs is always a hard time. Because I remember being a teacher and having a PLC. You meet once a week and for 40 minutes, you got this long list of things that you're supposed to cover, and you get into a conversation that is important, or whether it's looking at student work or talking about the upcoming map or the standards that we need to focus on. And then 40 minutes disappears and you're back into the world. At least with Teams, you can continue the conversation.
True.
Very easily.
Yeah, I feel like just the chat feature and the communication aspects of it, even using the video conferencing, I've been doing that a lot recently too. And it's just nice to kind of have everything built in where you don't have to go to other sources to kind of get that. And I just feel like with Brightspace and building the pages, there was a whole other level of being comfortable with that, to being able to put resources on there and share things that way. And I think things on Teams are just a bit more, I guess a little bit more intuitive, but it's just a little bit easier. It's just easier to navigate.
Yeah. Teams is really great for PLCs. Yes. And I think when teachers get over the initial shock of unified classroom, they're going to realize that this is just as like Teams, it's an easier tool to accomplish what you want to accomplish in the classroom. So yeah. Have you guys rolled any of that out beyond the January training or
unified classroom?
Yes.
So some of the teachers, it varies on grade level. Some teachers are a little bit more comfortable with it. Some are just kind of like just starting out with it and trying to incorporate aspects. And then we have a couple teachers who are trying to build out course pages right now and utilize it that way too. Our fifth graders are doing the take-home laptop project. So our ELA teacher here, Kiaga Johnson, who actually has done a podcast before. Yeah. She actually, we love her. Yes, we do too. She's tried utilizing it a little bit to get used to it. And then unfortunately, ILSs don't have as much access, I know, which is a downside right now. But I'm hoping that once we do, that we'll be able to utilize it a little bit more too on our side.
We feel the same pain because even as admins, we don't have the same access that teachers do. So it's always frustrating to try to troubleshoot people's issues when I can't do the same thing.
Right. And I know it'll be a process and we'll get access. The same thing happened with Brightspace. We didn't have the same access right away, but it came. So I know it'll come, and then we'll be able to help and utilize it as well.
One of the main reasons why we're talking today is because your name was brought up about something pretty awesome that you're a part of. You want to tell us about it? That's as far as I'm going to lead it. I'm going to let you share it out.
So I am currently the project coordinator for the CS for All program that's going on in the district, something I'm extremely excited about. This is actually, it's not the first year of the project. The project's been done for a few years now, and I was involved with it prior as a teacher. And I'll kind of talk about that. But basically, the project right now is trying to incorporate the digital learning computer science standards into our already existing curriculum. As we all know, we have standards. Massachusetts has digital learning standards, and it is something that we are required to teach our children to help prepare them to be responsible citizens in a digital world, basically. So we want to make sure that this isn't one more thing that has to be taught, because we know that there's only so many minutes in a day, and we have a lot of things that we have to do with our students every day. So we wanted to create opportunities that we could kind of incorporate those standards into ELA and into math and into science, and even into music or gym or physical education, into different subject areas. So currently, we have kindergarten and third grade teachers who are involved in writing and piloting modules, so collections of lessons that will incorporate those standards. And so we have about right now 18 teachers across the district, and then there's also 4 coordinators and myself that are working on the project. And our goal is this year we'll have 8 modules completed and ready to roll out in the fall. And we'll provide support to our kindergarten and third grade teachers to prepare them to go ahead and implement those lessons. There'll be basically 1 lesson for every quarter of the school year. That's our goal. And then ultimately, next year, we're actually going to be recruiting first and fourth grade teachers, actually very soon, to get involved in the project. And then next year, they'll actually be charged with writing and piloting curriculum to go ahead and embed into the curriculum the following year. And then again, we'll do it another year after that to bring on our second and our fifth grade teachers. So we're really excited about it. And one of the really cool aspects of the project is that we're in a partnership with UMass. So we have a team of researchers that are actually researching what we are doing. So we're involved in a research practice partnership. So instead of kind of researching an existing program or an existing entity that's out there, they're researching us as we're doing the work. And the coolest part about that is that they get to be a part of it. So they're not just bystanders. They're not just kind of like watching what we're doing. They participate in the meetings. They give us feedback. And they're helping us along the way to kind of really create these amazing modules that we can implement in the classrooms and promote digital learning across the elementary level. So we're really excited. We're really thankful to everyone that's involved in the project. We were actually funded by the National Science Foundation through a grant. We're really excited to kind of move this project forward and have this be something that's going to be successful to help our students and teachers.
Awesome. There's a lot of things and a lot of questions I want to ask.
That's okay.
I'm going to be respectful of the time because we are in a regular school day.
Yes.
So when it comes to these modules that you were talking about and creating the lessons, how have you decided, or how has the group decided that these modules and the lessons that you have, 1, fit the standards that you're targeting, and 2, are of quality? Because you and I both know we can go out to Pinterest or teachers teaching teachers, buy whatever, and it may be good, it may not be. Right. So how do we know that these are really good modules? So, what is your process?
So the first thing that we have done is provide professional development to the teachers, the design team teachers that are involved in the writing process. We want to try to give them some computer science background because we understand that many of us, like a huge chunk of us across the city, have not gone to school for computer science. That wasn't what we were doing. And so we want to make sure that these teachers that are involved feel comfortable with the content. So we all went through, including the coordinators, and actually you went through it as well.
I did too, yes.
But we did get to participate in a professional development program to try to, basically it's a course, to teach us some of that computer science background so that we could be comfortable with things like coding and programming and algorithm, those words that are going to come up so much in the teaching and that come up in the standards. And then we did some time unpacking the standards with the teachers, trying to understand kind of the content of it and also the range of the content, considering that there aren't kindergarten and then first grade and second grade standards. There's kind of bands. So there's K to 2 standards, there's 3 to 5 standards, and not every grade level is going to hit every standard every year. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of have a good understanding of the standards before we went forward. And then the teachers kind of chose things that they felt would fit into the content as being the experts at their grade level. And then they started the writing process, and then we piloted those lessons. We kind of gave feedback on those. And then they went through a revision process. And then they actually did a second piloting where another team of teachers piloted the initial ones so that we could get another round of feedback. And then we're hoping with the time constraints, we don't have much time left, that we're going to get a third round in so that really we get really good feedback on the lessons, and we've had iterations of lessons. And so that each time they're building more and more pieces. And one of the huge chunks of this project, the CS for All, is making it accessible to all students. So we really want to be mindful of how we can differentiate these modules to make sure that our special education students, our ELL students, students from different backgrounds, everyone can access this so that we're creating digital learners and students of all different ranges of backgrounds who we can prepare for the digital learning world and prepare for these jobs that are going to be available in the future.
That's awesome. So it sounds like there's a lot of testing that's going into these lessons beforehand.
Yes.
And a lot of feedback. Have you given them to teachers who are not part of this cohort yet to test at all? Or
we haven't yet. Some of them have been piloted in classrooms that aren't necessarily the classrooms of design team teachers. So there have been a few teachers that have seen some of the work. I actually got really lucky. I consider myself lucky to do this, but I got to actually pilot one of them. It wasn't initially in the plan of what my role was going to be, but we've kind of been flexible this year, and I kind of jumped in just so I could see what we were doing. And I got to do it in a classroom who's not involved, a teacher who's not involved. And she was so excited at what the kids were doing. We were doing an ELA lesson. The students were learning how to retell a story, and then they were retelling it using Scratch on the computers, and they were bringing up their characters, their sprites, and they were changing their backgrounds, and they were going through the whole process. And she couldn't believe how excited they were and how good at it they were. And I think that's one of the huge things, is that we don't even realize what the kids are capable of doing. Sometimes we get nervous, like myself included. Like, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable enough to do this. And so I think we have to kind of try to take that leap of faith because the kids are so capable of doing this work, and it's so engaging, and they get so excited in it. And it's just a great way to enhance what we're doing in the classrooms already by bringing in this other layer of things we could do.
Yeah, I remember my last year of teaching to get through, because we finished up MCAS last week of May, and so we still had 3 weeks of school left because of snow days. Yay, New England.
Yes.
So I was like, how can I get through the content that I still need to teach them, which is to prepare them for next year, but also keep them engaged so I'm not getting a lot of behavior things. So I ended up teaching the CS first lessons on how to make games through Scratch.
Yep.
And that was the most engaged. I had some engaged students, some students who were always like, please stop.
Yeah.
But when I first started that CS, I was at the same thing. I'm like, I've never done this before. I have no idea what I'm doing. I even told those kids that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're all going to do it together.
Right.
And then when they started doing it, they were asking every day, it's like, so when is our coding time? When is our coding time? When is our coding time? I got some of the best work I got all year long just so that they can get to making their own Flappy Birds game. Yeah. For a lot of us, when we think of coding, that's kind of what we think of, is making games. What are some of the things, you don't have to get into specifics of all the lesson plans that you guys have come up with, but what are some of the things, because you just talked about using Scratch to retell a story, what are some other things that you guys are doing?
So some of the other things, not everything's computer-based. We don't have a piece of hardware in front of us that we're asking the students to do. Some of them are what we call our unplugged activities, basically. And it's things like in kindergarten classrooms and talking about brushing their teeth and being specific in how you describe those different steps, because we know how important that is when you have to code, that you have to be very precise and specific in what you want to happen. And then just activities where students are working on positional words, and they're learning about how to give directions properly. And then we also have some science-based lessons where the students are actually building structures, and it's so tied into that whole idea of engineering and design and trying to build a structure that will withstand different conditions. So even outside of just computers, there's so many things that are just hands-on activities where the students can really engage in just cooperative work and just higher order thinking and really trying to problem solve, which is so important to try to build with our students. And problem solving really it really goes across like all content areas, and it's so important for them to do.
So you just gave me science and you gave me more English.
Yes.
And you did mention that also in math and also other subjects too. Yep. For some reason, maybe it's just my own personal roadblocks. How, other than like, how are you getting the computational thinking through in mathematics? Like what kind of activities are they doing in math?
So specifically this year in our kindergarten and our third grade, even when I was talking about positional words, that will fall into the math category. Just thinking in kindergarten, they learn about what does above mean, what does below mean, things like that. And then also too, we have some activities where they're talking about attributes. And so they have to describe different attributes of a shape. Through the description, they have to kind of almost interpret it and see if they can read it, kind of duplicate whatever the initial project like looked like or figure looked like. But we also have things in the upper grade levels too that involve graphing, and where you can bring in things like Excel, we were talking about, and other into telling time and things like that. Some of the teachers were doing makey projects with clocks and some really cool activities like that. So there's a lot of things that you can do in math that will use our computational thinking standards, and they're enhancing the existing mathematics that's going on in the classrooms. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of hit it. And a lot of times you'll do an activity and you don't even realize you're hitting all of these other standards and all these other content areas, and how easy it is to embed all of this.
Well, that's what I feel like I'm hearing right now is, and I'm thinking about those teachers who would be listening to us being like, I have no idea what CS looks like.
Yes.
It sounds like they're probably already teaching a lot of these standards to begin with.
Right.
They're now just identified as a standard to teach.
Exactly. Because a lot of it's like collecting data, analyzing data, or I'm trying to think what else. It's the end of the day.
Well, like the sequencing.
Well, sequencing, positional words, like putting things in order, even like writing, like being detailed in your writing, like everything is connected to the standards. The computer science standards. And there's so many, and that's what I think a lot of the teachers involved in the project, I think that after they went through the course and then they started writing, they all jumped right in. They all found it extremely easy to figure out how they could embed this into what they are already doing. We really didn't have any team struggle with trying to figure out how to do it,
that's great.
Yeah. So I think that's the big thing, is kind of getting that messaging out there that we're already doing it. It's just a matter of maybe like highlighting it and making students aware that this is what we're doing.
Right. Because when I think of like standards and technology standards and all of that, I'm like, so I remember in high school, like, had to be able to pass my typing class. You had to type at least 50 words per minute.
Yes.
Like, and I know that's actually in the standards. Like every grade level, I believe it's starting like first grade, it's 5, second grade, it's 10 words a minute, and so up and so forth. There's so much more to computer science and teaching with technology tools. Yeah. So.
And just like, and being prepared to be a citizen in a digital world. And that's a huge part of it. And understanding what's safe and not safe, and like how to appropriately communicate through it. And those are all, there's so much more than just typing. So,
and those are all skills that we all need even today.
Yes.
Just go out to the webosphere and you'll see it all.
Yes.
So for you, what has been the biggest light bulb moment for you in teaching computer science? Because you're an ILS, that's not a technology ILS. You were a third grade teacher.
Yes.
So and you didn't use a lot of technology, partly because we didn't have access to it. So what has been the biggest light bulb moment for you?
The biggest thing for me has just been finding out what the kids are capable of, because they're capable of so much. And I think for myself that maybe I didn't try things sooner out of fear. And that I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to do it. And then to have them all of a sudden be able to create projects, and just the excitement that they get from it and how engaged they are in it, it just makes me want to learn more and do more. Because if we can get them engaged in the learning, then like we can do anything with them. So I feel like that's just been such a huge part of it.
Yeah. And I bet it helps with everything else in the classroom too.
Definitely. So. Yes.
All right, so here's your chance. It is the end of March, beginning of April.
Yes.
You are kind of in charge of the whole thing. You're up there in the
Well,
in the structure of things. You're up there.
I'm a part of a big group that's been working
Right.
really, really hard.
So, and that group is about to expand.
Yes.
Give me your sales pitch.
So honestly, we are just really looking forward to having some first and fourth grade teachers jump on board who are excited to not only teach some computer science skills, but also learn for themselves. That's a huge part of this, is getting to start to become more comfortable yourself with computer science and thinking about computational thinking. And then we just want people who want to get out there and are willing to try, because that's all you have to do. So we're really excited to get next year going.
Yeah. Just because these questions, I'm sure, will come up to me, and maybe if we get them on the record, it might be easier for me to say, hey, go listen to the podcast. Or go back and listen to the podcast. What kind of time commitment is it?
This year has been a bit of a bigger time commitment. We started a little bit late, just we were waiting on funding of the project. But next year, we're looking towards trying to possibly start some professional development early on in the school year, possibly even before. We're still trying to think about how to structure that the best for next year. But the project will run the entire course of the school year, because we really want to try to have multiple iterations of piloting in order to kind of make sure the modules are fantastic. So we kind of want to learn from trying them and then making some changes to them and trying them again, kind of similar to a lesson study that we would do in schools. So it really needs the entire year to make sure that we can make those modules as good as they possibly can be. But there's some full design team meetings where we offer support from the researchers and the coordinators, and then also time for everyone to collaborate together. And then a lot of the work is done independently, with the teachers kind of working with a partner on developing the modules on their own. So there's all different types of ways to collaborate throughout the project, and the work will be spread out across the entire year.
And that's where Teams comes in.
Yes. We use Teams a lot.
So I like to end the interviews that I do with this question. When the school year starts, there's new hire orientation. Mm-hmm. People who are new to the district come in and they get a lot of information.
Yes.
A lot of it goes through one ear and out the other. Some of it they come back to. Some of it they have to hear a few times. Mm-hmm. If you had the chance to offer a piece of advice, whether it is in regards to using technology or just being in a classroom, what would that be? Just
to be open to the prospects of learning something that will help engage our students more. Basically, our goal is just to we want kids to learn, and we want them to want to learn. So throughout everything they're learning, anything that's going to help them engage students in their content area and help them grow as an educator is extremely important. So it's kind of it's a lot when you first get started. And I know part of my job as an ILS is to try to help prepare those people to get started, those newer teachers, and help kind of show them a way and support them in everything they need. But also to just kind of reach out. There's a lot of great people in the city of Springfield who know a lot of stuff and are involved in a lot of projects. And we really are lucky that we have so many people that are kind of available and willing to help. So be open to people helping, and just be open to working with kids and getting them engaged in learning.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I know we're almost at the end of the day here, and by the end of the day, it gets a little crazy.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie, for that time that we got to spend together just talking. It was a great interview. It was a great time just to learn more about what your role is in our CS for All grant and all the great opportunities that are coming up for teachers. I know when I went through the CS launch course, I learned a lot. I got a lot of good hands-on practice with different things that you can use in the classroom and thinking about how to apply them. So if you are a teacher out there who is looking to include more computer science into your classroom, I highly encourage you to check it out. Search. The postings will be up very soon about the next year. And if you are interested in testing out some of these units and lessons that have already been created, if you are one of those teachers, I highly encourage you to reach out to Katie. There are a lot of great tools just for the classroom. So again, I just want to wrap up this week by reminding you that you can listen to us on any platform that you listen to podcasts. We are available. You can find us out on Spreaker, that's our host website, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio. Whatever app you use, I highly encourage you to go and leave us some feedback there. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. If you know of a teacher who would be great to interview, I'm always looking for people to interview. That's nothing new. But if you think you are doing something great in the classroom and we should definitely share it with everybody, then I highly encourage you to come on to the show. I come out to you. It's very easy. It's no cameras involved. And we just talk. Me, you, and a microphone. I have some awesome interviews lined up for down the road once we are done MCAS time, including one with about girls who code. In that group, and I'm even pulling in students for that one. Be on the lookout for that and other future podcasts coming up. I'm your host, Bearded Tech Ed Guy Mike Thomas, and this is the SPS Digital Learning Hour.